I was a coach with the Yankees for my whole career.
And I worked at ABC News for over a decade. Then we started getting animals, and then people started asking, oh, you're gonna sell the meat? And kind of just took off from there. Kind of wasn't our plan, it just kind of happened that way.
We just started building and building and building, and one customer led to 2, 3, 4, 5 thousands, you know, and we sell a lot. This year we'll do between $3 and $4 million. If you don't know your numbers, you're gonna get smoked in this.
Talk to me a little bit about how this transition has been from city life to farm life. Okay. So you're Lauren and you're Dana.
Yes.
And this is Freedom Farms.
This is Freedom Farms.
And I loved your sign out there. It said the American Dream.
Yes, most days.
Yeah, most days. So you've got, what, 180 acres? Is that right?
So we have 180 acres. Actually, yesterday we just got another 60. So
wow.
Yeah, we're over the 200 marker, looking to keep on growing.
Okay.
You know, taking on more land.
Need more land
land
for the
barons.
cattle.
So we'll walk into your orchard here. Tell me a little bit about like why you got started. What's your background in? Do you come from a farming background?
No,
Not at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was a coach with the Yankees for my whole career.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I
I worked at ABC News for over a decade. Moved to Florida, right?
Yeah, we were living in Florida.
Yep.
And during COVID, we came up to New York. Our folks are from New York. We came up to visit them, and you can only spend so much time with your folks before you say, all right, we got to take a road trip. So I'm actually, one of my passions is real estate.
Okay.
So I've always looked at large land parcels or land tracts, and a lot of my athletes that I work with were all from Texas and down south, and they came from ranching backgrounds. So I always kind of had that in my head.
Okay.
And we just took a road trip up, and I said, hey.
He's always looking at real estate. So he's like, oh, there's this farm for sale. Let's go look at it. So we came up, we met this little old lady that was selling the farm, and we just fell in love with it, and we just threw our hats in the pile, and she went for it.
But there were no other hats in the pile, so that worked to our advantage.
I don't know.
Okay.
I think
No, there
were.
definitely weren't any other.
No?
No. Nobody wanted to do this.
When was this?
This was
Like 3 years
This
ago,
was the
4 years
summer
ago?
of 2020, so it was like
Yeah.
right in the COVID
Okay.
deal.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
people said, well, you must have been just kind of one of those COVID people, but we were in Florida, so we didn't deal with the same like COVID restrictions
Right.
as everybody else.
Right.
But I think we were intrigued about having your own land, being able to live off the land, you know, and support ourselves. Then we started getting animals, and then people started asking, oh, you're gonna sell the meat? And kind of just took off from there. Kind of wasn't our plan, it just kind of happened that way, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
My story is similar but different. I'm very entrepreneurial, and I like to jump into things. And you know, after you spend your career in sports, you know, you almost go through a retirement phase. So when you're in your early 30s, like mid 30s, and you're retired, you get bored. So we were looking for something else to do. That was part of it too, and we said, all right. Lauren wanted this to just be a summer vacation home because Florida gets hot in the summer. And then I looked at all the land and I said, well, how do you have a farm and not have any animals on it? It's almost like it feels wrong. So we went on Craigslist and bought 13 cows from a guy that was moving on a Thursday to Wyoming. He said, be here Wednesday or they're gonna go to the auction. So we bought 13 cows. Then we went on Facebook and I saw a guy that was selling 5 pigs, 4 sows, 1 boar. And I said, well, let's go take a trip. And we drove 40 minutes with her mother, who's from the Bronx, who couldn't believe that she was in this.
She's like, wait, you're getting 1 pig, right? And he was like, no, we'll take all of them. There was like, how many?
There was 5 total. And then you don't realize that pigs, when you don't come from a farming background, how fast pigs make more pigs, which make more pigs. And before you know it,
you have a whole fleet.
Yeah. So you take all that. We were very misunderstood by family and friends. Like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
What is this?
We did have some supportive family members.
Yeah, my brother.
We did.
Outside of that, it was minute.
And my dad.
But
His dad thought we were nuts. He's like, you guys can't do this.
Because we
But
come
that
from,
was like fuel.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? We'll show
Now I
him.
make sure I will.
yeah, and we were raised, you know, an hour outside of New York City. So, you know, people that come from that environment are not thinking about farms. Farming, farms, that's a whole different deal. We just got involved, and I literally had somebody ask me, do you guys sell meat? And that was like the trigger question. And I said, yeah, we sell meat. I had no idea what went into it. I said, I have cows. I know beef comes from cows, okay? We sell meat. So naively, I'm thinking that I can call a butcher get a cow butchered on
Right in
Thursday.
the middle of COVID.
Yep, and have it delivered
Like the next week.
to this customer the next week. I didn't know about meat having to hang. I
No,
didn't
we
know
didn't know
about
anything.
the 6-month like waiting list at a butcher, and that's
Or maybe the age of the animal.
and the age of the animal. Yeah. So I didn't give
Oh,
any of
wow.
that into consideration. So it was
We learned very
very quickly.
organically and
Yeah.
Wow.
the hard way.
Yeah, and we just started building and building and building, and one customer led to 2, 3,
Yeah.
4, 5 thousands, you know, and
Wow.
Crazy.
it was a
but it's
wild,
great.
wild run.
And we've met so many great people.
Let's talk about learning by doing and by failure for a second, because you both had some really like kind of high-ranking professional careers. You said you didn't have much support from family, and you're like, well, let's just do it. This is what it just kind of fell into your lap. Like, it's not like you really called out and said, I want to be a farmer.
No.
It just kind of made sense for you as you progressed along. So I
Yeah.
think that it's really important to talk about that. You do have to learn through doing.
That's
I
the
mean,
only
in
way.
anything that you do,
Yeah.
you can't just expect to be an expert before you
Yeah.
do something.
And don't be afraid to do it. Jump into it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, like when we started, right, we could have started with like 2 cows and 2
Yeah.
pigs. Well, my philosophy on everything, like, because I'm a performance coach by trade, is you gotta test your limits and see what you're capable of.
Yeah.
You know, if you have 2 cows, why can't you have 20? If your intent is to have 20, go there, and it's amazing how you'll figure it out. And that's what we did. And then it's like, okay, if you have 20, why can't you have 200, right? And then figure it out. It's just, I don't know. I think you can speed up a learning curve by jumping in. And that's what we do. And you have to realize that you're going to have some strain and some stress and some pain in that. But if you can get through it, you can win. So like, you know, again, I come from sports, so
Right.
it's all competition for me. Farming is like the ultimate competition. How do you keep your animals alive? You know, how do you maximize sales? You know, how do you continue to acquire land? All of it, right? It's all competitive. And I think that competitive spirit allows you to learn fast because you're hungry to move forward.
I like that you bring up competitive because traditionally in the farming world, it's been competitive but against your neighbor. You want to make more than your neighbor, better than your neighbor,
Yeah.
higher yields than your neighbor. And you're saying
It's more with ourselves.
yourself. You're competing against
I know.
yourself, and you're trying to push your
sick.
limits, like you said,
Yeah.
in nature and in just your own abilities. I
Yeah.
love that. I think that's a good way to explain just kind of being hungry to succeed and to move forward.
Yeah, because you know what? At the end of the day, who cares what your neighbor's doing, right?
Yeah,
At the
it
end of the day,
doesn't-
that's their path
their
and that's
life,
journey.
yeah.
That's their journey. Compete with yourself. That's
Yeah.
the best competition somebody could be in, with yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
I love that. I love that. So we're close to your cows.
Hopefully.
I see one laying down. It looks like
Oh,
they're taking
okay.
advantage
A
of some of
siesta.
the shade we've got.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
It has been
We'll take
hot
it.
the last few days.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not typically this hot in this region. You know, we've talked about, like, for us, is this the best region to even be in? For us, like the proximity to New York, Boston, DC, Philly, there's a huge mass of people here for us. So that's why we like this region, but also from rainfall. Like we very rarely, this is probably as dry as will be. And then it's supposed to rain in the coming days. But we typically won't deal with, you know, the same drought that other regions deal with. Look, the downside to this place is we have a shorter growing season.
Because of the cold.
The cold,
Yeah.
it starts to hit like, I remember we do a big party in September and
Where
we
is
took off.
everybody?
That calf's going right to where they are.
That's so funny.
Yeah, we do a party every September and it's usually the last warm weekend of the year. So
Oh, here,
You
this
need
is a good
mineral.
chance. So you've got the
Yeah.
mineral bins out here.
yeah,
Okay.
we
They
use a
need- they
Kent
need it
365 mineral
Okay.
that they really like. We've tried a bunch of different kinds. We started with the blocks and there just wasn't enough mineral yield off the blocks.
Yeah.
So we started to see a decrease in performance. So we converted everything over to granular mineral.
So we'll walk out here, try to find some of these cows. How do you manage your cattle? So are you like rotationally grazing? Are you using temporary fencing?
Yep, so here's what we'll say. We haven't gotten to the rotational grazing on, like our farm splits on 2 sides of the road. So this is the side we haven't set up yet for that. So this is a little bit of that, you know, I guess they call it the Columbus method, let them out and they just do their thing and you find them and they come back. On the other side of the street, we actually built, I guess you could say like semi-permanent paddocks where we just open the gate and they go through and they open the gate and they go through.
Yeah.
I don't have the time to be running around with temporary posts all day and doing all that. We're not there time-wise.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I think that's a good method because then you can also give this big area a break.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you can use it when you need to, like these days where it's dry and it's hot. If you start clustering them in little spots,
Yeah.
they're gonna get hot and they're not gonna do very well.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Yep. So we move them too, sometimes based on what weather's coming. Like again, when it's hot, this is a really good side to be on because you have this laneway that's it's got all trees, it's
Yeah.
got a ton of shade. You know, when there's storms coming, this is a good place for them to be. When they're on the other side, there's a certain paddock that we have where they can go behind the pond and again get a lot of shelter with the trees. You know, again, we bought the place, the guy was an excavator, so he took out a lot of the trees. So the windbreaks are not what we would want them to be. So that's our job to figure out, okay, where are we gonna strategically plant? So
Let's see if we can find these cattle because I
know.
saw that
They're
calf was a
hiding.
baldy.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get a little excited and say you might have Herefords out here.
yeah, we have
We
Herefords,
do.
and then
Yeah.
we actually picked up a few randoms from some farmers that called us and said, hey, I have a bad back, I'm getting out of the game, can you help us out? So we have a couple belteds out there.
Ooh,
Which I really like, tell you the
Yeah, I
truth.
like
I
the
hear
belted.
good things about Belties. I do.
Yeah, they're really good on grass, and they have the frame that we want, which is like a barrel with short legs,
Yep.
just to help us
You could
go.
probably call them here.
How many cows you got out there?
There's about 140 right now.
Wow.
Yeah,
You should call them.
yeah.
Come on, Kaz!
Oh, it shows you where their focus.
Come on, Kaz!
It shows you where their focus is today.
Someone's attention. Oh, here they come.
Uh-oh.
Come on, Kaz! Uh-oh.
They know exactly who feeds them, don't
Yeah,
they?
yeah, yeah. And you know, it's funny you say that because like we only feed them grass. We're
They
grain
think
free.
they're going on to a new pasture.
This is a big tease, so don't do it too much.
All right.
Here, I'm gonna
I don't want to tease them too much.
Yeah,
come out here.
yeah. But we have a good a well-behaved crowd. Like last year when Greg Judy came, you know, we had a group of like 65 people
Yeah, they
in
were
the,
nice
in the
with the
grazing
people.
school. They were right in the middle of the bulls and right in the middle of the herd, and there was no issues.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's why I liked Herefords. So Paul and I grew Herefords, or raised Herefords.
yeah,
And I just loved them. You can't, no matter who you talk to that is a cattle person, they will say you can't beat a Hereford mama.
no,
Black, white, or indifferent. Herefords are really good moms. But I always like the way they cut out. I feel like they always cut out really well.
And you know, it's
Yeah.
funny though, you say that, and then most of the customers that call, they all want Black Angus.
They don't know what they're
They
talking
don't know the
about.
they
difference,
don't.
but they want to know like, oh, you have Black Angus, you have Black Angus. And in this region, actually, there's a lot of fake Angus, Fangus, I guess you'd call them.
Okay.
Because it's a dairy region, and there's a lot of crossing. So the farmers will sell them as Black Angus, but they're half Holstein, half Black Angus.
Yeah, they look good.
Yeah, our biggest fear here, truthfully, is running out of ground.
Yeah.
That's the biggest fear.
Is that why you bought more acreage?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. I just don't want to ever be at the mercy of the land. That's,
I mean, I
that's
guess you
the truth.
are, right? Like you are in a sense, but
Yeah.
you're saying you want to have like a backup plan.
I want to have a backup plan to where
Yeah.
like if I want to keep my cows and keep growing our herd, I don't want to be in the position where we have to sell our herd for survival, their survival and or ours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't want to put us in that position. Like I said, I got into this also from a real estate perspective, and land acquisition is an old school wealth building method. Land acquisition is something that I've always enjoyed. So what great way to do it, and in our state, take advantage of a lot of the agricultural exemptions that you can get. Huh,
They're like, where are we going?
now they're chapped.
Yeah.
But this farm would probably be, I mean, very, very good for like 50, 60 head. But for what we're running, it's too much.
So you say that you have a little too much, but how much meat are you selling then? Like, you're
sell-
shipping across
Yeah.
the country?
We sell a lot. For this year, we'll do between $3 and $4 million.
And we work with other farmers that raise their cattle the same way.
To help
So-
with your inventory.
Exactly.
Okay. So how many calves are you processing a year then?
So this year, we're gonna
good
process, the goal is for us to process between 10 and 20.
A year or a month?
No. For our young herd this year, that's going to be what we process out of our herd.
Okay.
That's why we need A, more land,
Okay.
and B, we don't want to sell off our mama cows because we need them to keep producing calves every year.
Right.
And then we need to raise up those calves. The rate of growth that we have and the volume that we do, it would be impossible for us to A, buy enough land, and B,
Right.
produce enough cows and pigs,
Yeah.
to cover our run rate.
Yeah.
So for us, when we got into this, it was actually a bigger model than us in the real estate and the sales and things like that. What I found was in talking to a lot of farmers, I love to talk to people, it's my thing, that's how I learn. I found that most farmers, they actually hate the sales and they hate the marketing.
They do.
I love the sales and I love the marketing and I love the digital storytelling and I love storytelling in general.
And he loves customers.
And I love customers, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And what I found was if we could work with people, right, not compete, like we said earlier,
Yeah.
but work with people and say, hey, look, we'll do the selling, we'll do the marketing, you do what you love in the growing and bringing great beef and great chickens, right? We can do really well together. So now we have a great group of people that we buy our hay from. They just call me, they bring their hay, they get their check.
Yeah.
It's clockwork. We are the auction for
Right,
them. And the
right.
same thing with the beef. Hey, how many do you need? We need 4. We need 5 this week. We need 6 this week. Boom. It's created almost like we've created our own co-op. But the biggest idea behind it is A, keeping family farms going, right? Not letting agricultural land turn into development or be taken over by, foreign entities. And 3, you get farmers to do what they love. And if you lose farmers in America, you lose the backbone of the country. If you lose control of your food supply, you lose your country.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
And that was a big basis for us in terms of like mission to get involved with it. Let us take care of this and build a business of it. And by the way, you're going to do really well too.
Yeah.
I mean, so
I love that because a lot of like commercial growers, they're subject to whatever the commodity price is.
yeah,
And with farmers like you who are saying, hey, you don't have to hustle and bustle with the farmer's market with customers.
Yep.
You do your thing and grow the animals because that's what you really want to do. I'll cut you a good check
heck yeah.
for your great animals.
Yeah.
And we can make this whole community better. I really love that. And I think that that's catching on. I was going to ask you, with your cattle, at what age are you processing them? Because you said that they're 100% grass-fed,
Yeah,
right?
so-
Yeah.
So what age are you processing them at?
They're going to be on the upper tier, right? They're going to be closer to that 30-month range.
Okay.
Yeah, it does take a while to grow them out. And again, being in this region, we're on hay and baleage a lot of the year. So it's something that definitely jams us up. So it slows things down a bit. So we're definitely in the later stages of grass-fed, which means we got to carry them longer, which means we charge more because I got to hay them more and longer. So that helps us in terms of our pricing structures and just educating our audience.
Yeah. There are people who believe that their product is worth a high value and that's what they're going to sell it for. But then your customer base has to be able to afford that. And then
Right.
there's people who can't afford such a high price. So what is your opinion then on trying to make sure that, keeping the communities together, like you said, and feeding people?
2 things. Know your market, know your numbers.
Okay.
That's it, right? We're in the New York City metro market. It's the most expensive market in the country outside of California. We can play at a level because also our cost structure, what we pay for fuel is higher than other places. What we pay for hay is higher than other places.
Right.
What we pay for feed is higher than other places. So if you know your numbers, then you know what to charge and you'll know what your margins on profit are, right? But if you're just saying, hey, this guy charges $3 a pound for pork processed or $4 a pound, I'm gonna go for $2.75. And you're just pulling that number out of the air, you're hurting yourself. And the other thing that I find is a lot of farmers, they don't charge for their labor. It's free. Labor's free. What's our feed? They don't even think about what it costs to actually breed that calf or that grouping of piglets.
Yeah.
There's a cost to that. So just because you charge $100 for a piglet or $75, how much of that was profit? What did it cost you to run that sow for 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days, 3 hours, right?
Right.
What did it cost?
Yeah.
And if you don't know those numbers, first of all, you shouldn't even be in the business because you're guessing. And that's not a farming lesson. That's a business lesson. Like I talked to Greg Judy when he was here. I said, Greg, do you just love to farm is it a hobby for you or is it a business? And he said, it's 100% a business for me. Because if it's not, that's where you get in trouble. You take on big loans, you buy a lot of metal.
This is the most expensive thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, and if you
The bills are just incredible.
and if you're not on those numbers,
Yeah.
you will tank fast.
Oh my gosh.
Like I'm locked in on the numbers because I have
Every
to be.
day.
Or else the whole enterprise, regardless of what your top line earnings are, you could
Yeah.
bring in $20 million.
Like pretty much everything we make goes right back into the farm.
Yeah, we're strategically
Yeah.
recycling the monies. But if you don't know your numbers, you're gonna get
Oh my gosh.
smoked in this.
Yeah.
You're
It's,
gonna,
it's
you
very
know,
expensive.
even if you inherit your land, right, from
Yeah, it's
generations, you won't be able to overcome some of the operating expenses.
It's
Yeah.
a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is a big boy. This is a big boy sport here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No,
This is no joke.
I love that. And I mean, of course, there's the extremes on each end. There's the high dollar business. There's the hobby farmers. And then there's everyone in between, right?
Homesteaders.
Homesteaders,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But I think that maybe more to your point, it's more important that you are comfortable with your margins.
Yeah.
And as long as you're comfortable with your margins and you're paying yourself, you know,
Yep.
that's
And
where it's at.
I think there's one other part to this. I think there's also a lot of pressure on people to go direct to consumer. I do. I think I see a lot of advertising like, hey, join this $15,000 program and we'll teach you how to go direct to consumer. My rebuttal to that is that what you want to do? Do you really want to do that? Do
Yeah.
you want to run a customer service business?
That's a whole other animal.
Do you want that to own you, right?
right.
Do you want to have that logistics? And if you don't, hey, by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. But you got to do what you're passionate about. And you got to do the part of the business that you love. I have a guy, Cameron, he's a great kid. And he told me, he's like, look, I love cutting hay. I love cutting hay. He's about 27 years old. I love cutting hay. That's his passion. He goes, but I also have these cows. I'm like, well, what are you most passionate about? He goes, I love cutting hay. I said, get rid of those cows.
Yeah.
Why would you sell cows when your passion is hay? Sell hay and be the best at it and find a market
Because
for
we
it.
need that.
Yeah.
And, you know, he listened and now he's taking on more acreage, leasing more land, cutting. And he's going to see a profitable year for himself because he's doing what he loves to do. But not everyone has to sell direct to consumer.
Right.
Like our long-term plan is to build a direct to consumer business and sell it.
Okay.
That's the plan. That's the only reason I'm doing it, right? Is we get to build a brand, bring great food to people, have an element of commercialization that's not big food, but ultimately it would be to sell that side of the business and continue the ranching and do it again with something else. You know, I know that's a little bit of a different mentality and thought process, but like direct to consumer will consume you. That's the consuming part.
Right. But I'm very interested in those who choose to become farmers and really dive this deep.
Well, I'll be
with
honest
their
with you.
food.
This was not my plan. I always feel, I
Okay.
tell people all the time, and I really believe that God has his plan.
Yeah.
I feel like I just follow him, and he brought me to Dana. Because
Sorry.
I was working in the city and working in news, and it's just crazy where life takes you. But
Yeah.
his plan is the best, and I always think that when I'm on the land, because it all comes from him. Like he made all this. He made the chickens. He made the.
Yeah.
We're just like the facilitators that get the food to the people
Yeah.
out there.
So-
So we're just like managing, I guess you would say. I give all the credit to him because this was not my plan.
So talk to me
It's good,
then
though.
a little bit about how this transition has been from city life to farm life mentally and emotionally, because it's more than just physical labor. Like everyone can agree that farming is hard,
It is, yeah.
but there's a big like mental aspect to
Yes.
it too. So can you guys talk a little bit about that, from like going from your big city professional careers, kind of like the simplistic farming side of it? I know you have a big business drive, but how has that transition been?
For us, it's been good. I feel like, we're not too far from, they have a city here called Binghamton, and there's nice restaurants and stuff. So when we feel like we need to get off the farm, we'll go and have a nice dinner, and we've met some nice people in the city area. But I don't know. I think working in the city, I was done with it, and I always wanted land. I used to work for an actress. She had a beautiful summer home in upstate New York with a lake, and she would go out on her quad, and I just loved that. I was like, man, I'd love to have that someday. I love it. I mean, it is mentally challenging. the day-to-day where you're packing orders, and it's stressful sometimes because you're trying to get stuff out to customers, and then you're worried about animals that are sick, or so I guess I have my moments where I freak out. You know, I lose it a lot. But he keeps me balanced, and
Okay.
but I love it. I think the transition has been good. It's been very healthy overall.
Yeah.
You know?
I actually, and she says it like that, I find it to be, actually, it could be a very unhealthy way to live
That's true too.
because you're always on. You
You
know,
mean at the farm.
Yeah,
You never get a
You're a
break.
fireman, right? Anytime the bell rings, you better be on the truck running to whatever your problem is or
Right.
whatever's going on. So there's an
Yeah.
element of that that could be tough.
Yep.
Again, you know, coming from sports, so like my phone is like I was always had to be available, right? We worked.
And when I worked in news, there was always breaking news, but this is a whole other.
Yeah, this is, you know, this
This
is
is
it's
like-
different. It's just different. Like for us, I think if we were really in the middle of nowhere, the struggle would probably a bit
Yeah.
harder for us.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if I could do a farm in the middle of nowhere. I would
that's
need
gotta
to
be
be
tough.
within probably an hour of a city personally.
Yeah.
That's just where I'm at mentally.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do the middle of nowhere thing. And if you grow up in that, I think you either A, love it and want to maintain it, or B, you want to get out of that,
Yeah.
right? And you want to run to a city. For us, we like kind of being in the middle and going in between these two worlds.
That's
So-
why you like this, where this farm is located, because we're still accessible to, like, people from the city drive up for the day. You know, you're still kind of in that.
Yeah, we're in a good basket, I guess
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
would say. The hardest part for me is the cold. You know, we
Yeah,
were
the
living in
winters are
Florida,
brutal.
so coming from that to here,
Yeah.
we've even thought about like, hey, from a distribution standpoint, should we think about also having something down south? But
We're not
again,
there yet,
we're not
though.
there yet
Yeah.
mentally
Yeah.
to think about
Oh my
taking something on.
gosh.
Actually,
Yeah.
so that's kind of our biggest thing.
So I want to talk, and I'll just be completely honest. I don't know if it'll get in the video, but I'm curious. I've been thinking on it in the back of my head since you said it, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to bring it up, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. You said that your goal is to build this farm and then sell it.
Not the farm.
The business side.
The business
The
side.
direct-to-consumer
okay,
side.
if you don't mind, elaborate a little bit about that, because I think that when, I mean, I come from generations of farming, right?
Yep.
And when I hear that, it kind of like hits me in the gut a little bit. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
don't
you're
build up
worried
something
about
so
it.
great and then sell
Yeah.
it. Why?
I-
So
well,
why
I-
would
I-
you sell it?
I
I'm
didn't,
curious.
well, I didn't say I was done.
Okay.
So
expand, please.
Yeah.
Please elaborate. I'm so curious.
Well, I don't want to give away my trade secrets. No, I'm just
Okay.
kidding.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. So for me, I look at life, I've looked at my whole life in between 5 and 10 year blocks. And I say, okay, actually, like after about between year 5 and 10, I get a little bit bored of doing the same thing. So, right, Freedom Farms, which we built, and I say this, we may sell it, we may not,
Yeah, we don't know.
to somebody else that has renewed passion to take that business segment to its next place.
So when you say the business side, you mean just the sales, not the operations.
Right, exactly.
Right.
It's almost like I look at it like these are like again I'm a creative too,
Right.
so I look at business like art,
Okay.
and you build something, you create storylines, you get people excited, you build community, and then you move to your next thing that is the same thing. Now when I say sell, it may be bringing somebody on that runs that segment of the business.
Right.
I just don't, let me rephrase it. I just don't want to be doing the same thing I'm doing today 5 years from now.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
was probably a better way to. So if it means that there's somebody 10 years younger than me that's excited to pick up at
Take it
that
to the
point and
next
take it to the
level.
next level, beautiful. If not, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I know personally through my own journey of life, I'm good for 5 to 10 years, and I want to do something fresh. It
Yeah.
could be in agriculture, and it probably will be, but I want to do something different because I just.
Well, it'll definitely be in agriculture.
Yeah, I'm always chasing something new and fresh and different.
I feel that. I'm the exact same way. I get bored. I'm a little faster. I'm like 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay,
Me
I'm getting
too.
a little bored now.
Yeah.
This is very monotonous.
I need a new challenge.
Let's do something else.
Yeah.
Like I need something new to push my limits. Like you said, my competition is myself.
That's
Yeah.
great.
So I love the way that you said it, not necessarily selling, but handing it off
Yeah.
so that you can go expand on something new and fresh
Exactly.
for you.
Exactly.
I love that.
So
I think
that's-
that's amazing.
that's-
I'm glad I asked.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah,
was
it's a great
ruminating on it,
question.
and I'm like, there's got to be more to that. I'm
Yeah.
so glad that I asked that. Thank
Yes.
you for answering that, because that's amazing. So before we wrap up, I'm just curious if, like, you guys seem like such visionaries, and like you're really, really inspiring to talk with. I am just curious if there's like anybody else who's like kind of in that world that they're thinking, well, maybe I could do farming. Like I live in the middle of New York City, but maybe I could own a farm one day. Is there like one piece of advice that you would give them?
Don't be afraid.
Okay.
Just do it, like Nike says. Just do it.
Just do it?
Yep.
Why?
Because you won't know until you
do it.
Right? Like
Yeah.
if we hated this, we would just pack up and be done.
Right.
Yeah, if that's something anything you want to do in life, don't be afraid to go for it. If you fail, at least you know you tried and
And
You
I
feel
want to
good.
say one thing, not
Yeah.
to cut you off. But even if you do it and you fail now and you get the itch to do it again in the future, do it again, but just do it differently, right? There you get multiple, again, I come from baseball, right? You get multiple at bats in the game of life.
You do.
So just take the shots and take your at bats, and you're not going to hit a home run every time, you know, but just take if you have it in your head, you have it there for a reason.
Right.
The worst thing you could do is sit on YouTube all day and just, unless you're watching this show.
Yeah, this is a great show.
But is sitting there and like doing
Everybody's telling you what you shouldn't do. You know, don't
Yeah.
listen to the people because people told us we couldn't do it.
Yeah, can you elaborate a little bit on that? Like, you said that you didn't get a lot of support, so how did you work through
I
that?
got more support than him. My parents were cool. My mom, she's a Bronx girl from the city, but her parents lived on farms and
Right.
she understood what we were doing. My dad was 100% for it, and his brother was 100% for it.
Yeah.
But I think his dad was like,
My dad's like a old school Italian.
well,
like,
he
do
wants to
this and
protect
that's
his
it.
son.
This is,
Yeah.
what'd you do in your life? You're a coach? Okay, that's what you do.
Yeah, and that's
And
okay.
that's what you do till the end.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But we just
and
continue
now they're
to
like,
take a shot.
they come up here and they're like, this is fantastic. They love it.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to win people over.
Yeah.
And that's the other side, but that can't be your goal.
Well, people
right?
aren't going to understand.
It's your life.
It's your life.
So you have to do
Whatever you feel called to do it.
yeah. and
I mean,
jump.
I personally feel that
Yeah.
1,000%, because when Paul and I told our family and friends that we were going to sell the farm, move into a camper, and then go travel the
forget
country,
about it. You must
they were
have gotten-
like, "You sure that's a good idea?"
Yeah, it's a very.
And we're like,
Well,
"No,
they just
we're
love
not
you.
sure."
They just love you and they want you to,
Of course, they're just like you said, they're just trying to
protect you
protect you,
and-
and they
yeah.
just want to make sure that you're making the right decision. And
Exactly.
to be fair, Paul and I are very impulsive people.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Which is great, but also, sometimes
That's
got us
great,
into a
though.
bind. But
You gotta
But
write
you
a
could
book
switch back. You
someday.
could switch back the other way too. The impulse could say that was cool. Now let's go back and do this, or let's do something totally different. It's phases. Your life is it's like the books, right? I write books. It's a chapter,
yeah.
Chapters.
chapter, and one opens, one closes. One
Yeah.
opens, one
Yeah.
closes. There's a beginning, there's an end. Just do it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no better advice than
And don't listen
Just
to
do
the
it.
negatives. Focus on the positives.
because there's a lot of negative
There's
people.
a lot of negative.
Yeah.
And they will talk you out of your own dreams and your own goals, and they're
Yeah,
just
focus on the
dealing with their own
positive.
stuff.
Right.
So you
Yeah, it's
have
their
to
own
shoot your own baskets.
Yeah.
I love it. Baseball player going to basketball.
Yeah,
now.
that's right. We're pivoting. Well, the Midwest, I figure for the Midwesterners out there
That's
that like
true.
basketball.
That's
Little
true.
hoop analogy.
Dana and Lauren, thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for showing me around.
It's an honor to have you.
Sharing what
Yeah.
you're doing. I mean, I love what you're doing. Any regenerative farm is amazing. I love what they're doing, what they're trying to do. But I think that from your guys' perspective of just doing it.
Yeah.
And just having fun with it, and every 5 to 10 years just doing what you're called to do. I think that's very inspirational. So thank you for having me out, showing me around.
Cool.
I love seeing your cows. Glad you have her.
We
first.
love having you. We hope you come back.
Thank you. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that will be on our list for sure.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think sometimes as farmers, especially those in like a traditional sense, we get stuck in our ways, and I am that way too. This is how we did it. This is how we're going to do it. But when you get people who don't have a farming background and they just want to explore and have fun and learn and grow and develop, it just brings on this whole new sense of identity and of what I want my life to become and my farm to become. I just loved their candor and their openness and their honesty. Their farm is beautiful here. So thank you for coming along with me. I know that I will be taking some of what they said with us when we settle down again one day. I don't know when that will be. We're gonna try to travel as much and for as long as we can. But one day we're gonna be called to settle back down. And I am so excited to bring you guys along with us on this journey, and we will definitely bring you along on the next journey as well. We're still in New York. We've got a lot more farms to see, so stay with us. We will talk soon.